handle this? Because I remember as a kid, I had nightmares all the time. I still do. I have nightmares pretty much every other night. I have a nightmare. And it's gotten to the point where I've just gotten used to it so much it doesn't really faze me, but as a kid, I had nightmares all the time, and they were vividly real. Like, incredibly real. Every single night, I would wake up from something scaring me in my dreams. And, well, I mean, not every night, but every other night, maybe. Hey, I got a story to tell here. I'm trying to open my soul about my childhood, and you're just shaking your head like, oh, that's not normal. You're a weirdo. Oh, I don't need you judging me. Where you at? Okay, same. He likes that side. Swoopty. Hey, how's it going? How you doing? Okay, alright then. Let me just rewind my doodadder. Okay. But yeah, like, very frequently, and I remember one more distinctly than any other. I was, a pretty typical nightmare. I was being chased by someone with a chainsaw. I must have been, like, 7 or 8 at the time, maybe 9. But I was being chased by someone with a chainsaw, and, it was really freaky because for some reason I was running, but I could see his face very clearly. Like, just this huge, angry face just burned into my mind. And then I woke up. But the terrifying thing was, I could still see that face. That face was literally burned into my eyes. When I looked in my doorway, in front of my bed, at the foot of my bed, I saw his face. Nothing else, not his body, not the chainsaw, just his face staring at me from the doorway. It was the most chilling experience. I threw my head under the covers, like, I hid, I thought I was gonna die, I cowered in fear. And again, I'm a child, but when you're a child and you see something horrible like that, just a figment of your own imagination come to terrorize you. You think that it's real, and I did. And I remember that, like, I will remember that until the day I die, because it was by far the scariest nightmare I've ever had. And then I have nightmares every night. And what's even weirder is that my nightmares are sometimes recurring. Like, I'll have nightmares in the exact same place, and when I'm in the dream, I will remember the nightmare, but not the fact that it's a dream. Like, oh, hey! Even to this day, I'll have nightmares in the exact same places that I've been before, multiple times. I can't even count how many times because I barely remember the nightmares when I get out of it, but some just stand so vividly in my mind, like that one from my childhood. And, yeah, it's just kind of my life. Even before I started playing horror games. I mean, that's why when I first started being a YouTuber, I honestly was very hesitant to play horror games just because, like, I was very scared. I just was. Yay, we did it! We beat the first night! I've got a lot more nightmare stories, but by the way, in case you guys actually wanted to hear all of that. Like, when I say I have nightmares all the time, I am not joking. I have nightmares almost every other night. And a lot of the times I'll have what are called waking nightmares, where you wake up, but you don't know you're awake, you're still dreaming, so you kind of hallucinate things in your room, and you hallucinate seeing things like in the shadows, and you're literally trapped there. You can't move because your body is still frozen, and so your mind is like halfway between dreaming and reality, and that happens to me quite a lot, actually. What was that? Hey. It happens to me a lot, like not as often as the normal nightmares in general, but like that does happen a lot where I'm just lying in bed after I have woken up, or at least I think maybe I've woken up. At the time, it doesn't feel like it though. So usually what happens is I know there's someone coming into my room. Like someone is trying to get in. Someone is like taking steps closer and that I'm locked in my body. And I think someone is walking towards my bed, and it may or may not be with the intention to hurt me or not, but someone in your room that you don't know is just walking in. That's usually bad, so that's usually when I start to panic, and the worst thing is you can't move. Like, I can't move when that's happening. Like, I literally am stuck in bed, unable to move it, and like, I'm fighting as hard as I can to be able to move, and then suddenly I'll be free and wake up and I'll like violently throw myself out of bed, And just like, it's one of those moments where you wake up breathing heavy from a nightmare, but I was living the nightmare the whole time, thinking that someone was stalking towards my bed. It's just as bad as it sounds. Those ones actually they still scare me. So that happens maybe like once or twice, like once every 2 months or so is what I'd say for that one. But the normal nightmares, those happen all the time. Yeah. There's even like weirder occasions that happened a long time ago. I remember this one that stands out in my memory, much like the that one time long ago, but this was when I was a teenager, probably around, I think I was like 14 maybe. I was in bed, and I don't remember having a nightmare that night, but I remember waking up in the middle of the night. I woke up for no apparent reason, and when I looked up at the ceiling, it was crawling. Like the ceiling was moving. I had one of those textured ceilings, you know, the stucco patterns, whatever it is. So I think it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but for some reason, and I don't really know why, I got out of bed. I got out of bed and grabbed my notebook, downstairs, and I kind of just, I really don't know why, but I laid down, or I sat down at the base of the stairs in the darkness, and I just stared at the doorway next to it, the hallway, entryway, archway, and I just stared there and I sat there, and I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or not. I really couldn't tell, like, what I was doing or what was going on. I just remember I was staring at this doorway, just watching it morph and shift and like change, and I would blink and I would think that something was there, like there's this shadow looming in the hallway, like entryway. Like, I don't know why I was just sitting there staring at it. And it would go and it would be there and it would be gone and then it would come back and it was just this big moving shadow, like shifting and like morphing in the darkness. And I knew at the time it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, and I wasn't really scared at that point. I was kind of creeped out, but I wasn't scared. So to recap my story, I'm at the bottom of the stairwell staring into the entryway into the darkness, and I see occasionally, like very occasionally, this big moving shadowy figure. Just, it's kind of like in the static of the darkness, like I just see the outline of it. No details, just arms, legs, body, and head. And so I take my notebook and I just start sketching the doorway, like the whole entryway, and I sketch, just trying to get like a picture of what I saw. I'm not 100% sure why, but I was just sitting at the bottom of the stairwell in the darkness. It was like 3 a.m. sketching, and then I can't even see what I'm drawing because it's so dark. So I just kind of get a rough outline, and then I look closely at what I was drawing, and I see what I drew. And I literally just drew this shadowy figure standing in the doorway, and for some reason, when I did that, it made it really real for me. Like, maybe I was still dreaming at that point, but I was physically downstairs. And so, like, I sort of realized where I was and looked around, and I was just like, I had this overwhelming sense of dread. Like, this isn't a ghost story or anything. This isn't anything like that. Nothing supernatural happened, but this is really what happened to me. And I had no justification for why I was doing that, and why I was down there, and why I drew this shadowy figure in the archway in the middle of the night. Like, I had nothing to prove, I had nothing to do, there was no reason for me to do it. I wasn't ghost hunting, I just for some reason went downstairs and just sat in the darkness, drawing this shadow monster staring back at me. Oh, and that was the creepiest point, I don't even think I mentioned it. I drew eyes. Like, not real, like, descriptive eyes. I drew eye holes in the thing, and I couldn't see that in the darkness, but for some reason I drew it with eyes. I just felt like it was looking at me, and it was horrifying. Oh, I was shook, basically. We didn't even have that word back then, but I was shook with a capital sh. And so, I couldn't go back to my bed, because, like, the ceiling was still crawling to me. The ceiling was still moving. It was like I was out of the dream finally, and yet the dream was still around me. So, we had our golden retriever, Buddy, there, not Chica, Buddy, who's an awesome dog that you guys have probably seen videos of and pictures of. I called the buddy, and I just had to go lay on the couch. I couldn't go through that doorway, the archway, but I went around it, and it was just like, man, I can't. Things get foggy after that. I think like I called out to Buddy because I didn't want to move, and yeah. So yeah, that's my other nightmare story. I've got a few others like that. Oh, a lot of my nightmares mostly happened when I was a kid. They were very Anyway, a lot of my nightmares they happen when the dream starts out normal and fun and free, but ooh, shit. As a kid, I don't know why I'm super nervous this time, but as a kid, I would have a lot of lucid dreams, like a lot of lucid dreams. I used to be able to lucid dream pretty much whenever I wanted to. It was freaking, no, you're not gonna knock there. Ah! I've gotcha! The knocks are a lie! Ugh. So, I would be able to lucid dream. I haven't been able to have a lucid dream in a long time until just recently, like a few months ago, but when I was a kid, I was able to just fly around and... Okay, so, lucid dream, me, kid, nightmares, dreams! It happened a lot. So, it usually started out very fine, where I was able to control, but as time went on, I would just, like, the nightmares would devolve. Or the dreams would devolve into nightmares. Ugh, fuck. And I just wouldn't be able to control them anymore. Like, it was the weirdest sensation to have a lucid dream and then slowly have control ripped from my hands. Like, I was in a world where I was able to fly and do whatever I wanted. It was raining in the front yard. It was sunshine in the backyard, you know, that sort of thing. And I think, like, as a kid, like, you're able to do that just because your world is much smaller. Therefore, your dreams don't have as much, you know, stuff to work with. So it's easier to, when you know your world very well, especially if you just like grew up in the same house, or you know you don't go to school yet or something like that, or you go to like a very small school, which I did when I was growing up. It's easier to know you're dreaming because you'll be able to tell the differences. But this didn't happen whenever these lucid dreams started turning into nightmares, because I would just be in my backyard. And I would be playing around with my brother or something, or in the dream, of course, I'd be playing around with my brother, and then, like, I was able to control it, and, you know, for some reason I didn't recognize that my brother wasn't also dreaming with me. You know, he obviously was in there, but in the dream I thought he was. And then I would turn around and he'd be gone. My brother would just be gone, and then I would be in the backyard alone, and then suddenly, like, I knew I was dreaming, but I couldn't control it anymore. Like, tried to fly, couldn't do it. Ooh, frick-a-dick. So it didn't really like end anywhere cataclysmic. It's not like vines started growing out of the ground or anything like that. It was just like I just had this overwhelming sense of dread when I was in there, because like my brother was gone, and like like the sky got a little darker, and then everything just started getting a little darker, and so I went the only place that I thought it could be, and I went into the woods, like because we had this creek by our house that we'd always go and play together, and just me and my brother, and it was just always good to go back there, so I just assumed he went back there. But then when I stepped like into the boundary, into the forest, like I started to forget that I was lucid dreaming. Like I forgot. It was the weirdest thing when I woke up and realized it, but I forgot that I was in control. And then control was completely ripped from me, and I was just wandering endlessly in the creek, like over and over and over again, endlessly. Everywhere I went, looking for my brother, calling out for him, crying, like I was just completely distraught that my brother was gone, because it's like this transition of mind where you believe the dream is a dream, and then suddenly the dream is real, and it was just it's terrifying. I woke up from that, and I had to go like check on my brother to make sure he was still there, not outside, lost in the woods. God. But there are like tons of occurrences like that where that was just the earliest example that I could think of it, where I was able to lucid dream as a kid, and then control is just gone. And so like it was only like until about a year later that my lucid dreams just stopped in general. I wasn't able to Nah, I heard that. Yeah. Think you can trick me? You cannot. You cannot. Yeah. So I hadn't been able to lucid dream for a long time, just like I can only remember once or twice in my teenage years, and then once just recently